Good day, viewers. Welcome to a new edition of 30 Minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television with me, Manir Dan Ali. Our guest today is a digital specialist, someone who has studied computer science in an Australian university and is a member of the Computer Society of Nigeria, and is someone who is also very passionate about data protection and owning. That is ensuring that Nigeria doesn't cede that space to other foreign interests. I'm talking about none other than Malam Yusuf Salisu Funtua. Malam Yusuf, if I may call you that, what is your take on the current furore, that is all the drama, all the noise about Nigeria, that is the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria, signing an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding with a French entity, something that is making people a bit uncomfortable. I don't know whether in your own case you are okay with it.
Thank you very much, Manir, for giving me the opportunity to lend my voice on this very crucial matter in this day and times in our country. Like you've made mentioned, I have always been at the forefront of advocating about Nigeria's digital sovereignty. And the signing of this MOU between Nigeria's Federal Inland Revenue Service, now NRS, and the French organization has definitely stirred some reactions from well-meaning Nigerians. Now, let us take this back a little bit before I take my stand and share my opinion on this. Initially, we were advocating about Nigeria's digital sovereignty. In some cases, we have had some people saying that Nigeria is sleepwalking into a digital colony as a result of so many realities going on in the Nigeria's digital economy landscape. If you look around in Nigeria, you will find that so many, startups and businesses deploy their services and data on foreign-owned cloud service providers such as Amazon, AWS service, Microsoft Azure, DigitalOcean, and whatnot. And that actually, is a significant amount of data that is out there. And that is one of the things that some of us have been trying to bring the attention of the government. Now, I would like to categorically state that the Nigerian administration so far in Africa is leading the way in terms of digital infrastructure, digital economy development, and policies in terms of digital cybersecurity and matters relating to that. It is very commendable. Recently,
if what you say is true, why this aberration? Why this MOU? Because you are saying that the Nigerian government seems to be doing the right thing. I thought it is the Nigerian private sector that appears to be restless and pushing the borders. That is why we have the Flutter waves of this world and all those digital startups that are well recognized internationally. But is the Nigerian government, the administration, doing the right thing, including this particular MOU signing?
Okay, I did not specifically say that Nigerian government is doing the right thing. I'm just trying to establish the premise that Nigeria has successfully on its own tried to build a digital infrastructure that supports the current digital economy, which, our country is benefiting from, very much. And it is against that backdrop that the Nigerian government has the confidence to introduce these 4 new tax laws. And, in the process of implementing these laws, and efficiently and effectively, the Nigerian government deems it fit to go out there and outsource these services from a company that it feels has over 100 years of experience in tax administration in Europe and controls a stream of staff of over 90,000. Now, the source of outcry and concern for the Nigerian people is not actually from the level of expertise and experience, the years of experience by this organization. It is actually born out of some realities and lessons that people were able to draw from the host nation of this organization, which is France. And a lot of people are making...
people be concerned because it's France.
Exactly. So a lot of people are betting their concerns because this organization that signed the MOU is actually from France. And they are making claims based on results that they have seen from Francophone countries and a lot of, allegations, casted on the French government, based on the kind of relationships that these Francophone countries have had with France. And that is like the leading source of concern by members of the private sector and other stakeholders in the, in the country.
Is that justified?
So, and based on the data that is available, the MOU, as the FRS stated, based on the data that's available, is a technical cooperation. They are only going to, based on what they said, is they are working on capacity building, tax administration advisory. But there was no any place that...
But are you as an expert in the area, are you convinced? Are you convinced that indeed this is just for capacity building and what have you? Because the concern is that this is a non-Nigerian entity that will have access to our tax data, and that kind of situation is an aberration, and it means we could, again, to use your word, be sleepwalking in this case with our eyes wide open. We are walking into another digital colony.
Okay, it is too early for us to conclude that, because there is not enough information. Nobody has seen the details of the MOU. So everyone is commenting based on the information that was released during the signing of the MOU. And the information available now does not categorically state that Nigeria is handing over tax data to another country. It has not been stated, so I cannot, work based on that assumption and say that that is happening. And there is no any place that it is stated that Nigeria will hand over that data. And also, based on the information available, there is no place where it is stated that Nigeria will give access to Nigeria's tax data wholly to and control to the organization which they have signed an MOU with. Now,
well, as you rightly
at the backdrop of this,
in the details. As you rightly said, the devil is in the details. We don't have those details. But usually in such kind of deals, everything stated. You don't expect them to state, okay, we are taking over all of these things, but impliedly people are concerned with our, advancement in technology, with all the things we've been able to do as Nigerians and our capacity to innovate. Why do you have to get a non-Nigerian company to do this capacity building? I think that is the concern of people who have been expressing views on this, including the letters from the Northern Elders Forum that says, look, let's not get into this. It should be immediately rescinded. Okay,
I totally agree with the concerns of Nigerians. As a matter of fact, oversight is not anti-government. It is, the government should be celebrating this, that Nigerians are following its, policies tooth and nail, and they are trying to support the government in making the right decisions, since both the Nigerians and the government have mutual interest to advance the development of the country. Now, at the same time, corporations do not per se threaten digital sovereignty, but what threatens sovereignty is actually opacity, if I may put it in that way.
That is
it's actually
lack of
opacity,
explanation, lack of details, and
exactly, and that is
in some kind of secrecy.
Exactly, and that is why I believe this is a source of major concern, both from the Northern Elders Forum and other well-meaning Nigerians, especially professionals, in the field of cybersecurity and whatnot. But cooperation should not threaten sovereignty, because a lot of countries have had these kind of cooperations. Nigeria has a lot of cooperations and MOUs with many other countries in many other sectors. But the focus here should be, the questions that Nigerians should be asking, for government to also pay attention to, is whether Nigeria has the requisite policy in place to checkmate any excesses that might come ahead of this MOU. And because a lot of people have come out to state their stand on this MOU, even though they have not seen more details, and implementations have not started. So I think it is strongly advisable that the government should release the MOU just to disabuse the minds of Nigerians, so that people will see what is really going on, and it will relieve the tension from the atmosphere.
But why is there a seeming radio silence from the government agency that is supposed to come into this kind of matter? That is the Data Protection Commission. We have this commission set up after the law of 2023, just 2 years ago. We have the commission which has its own, staff and what have you. Why is there this silence from them? Because we are talking about data protection, and it is other Nigerians that are championing this. Some Nigerians, which in some cases may not even understand all the matters that are involved. So why do you think this agency, this commission, is all quiet at its own end?
Okay, let me begin by saying that I believe you may have seen the response by the Nigerian Inland Revenue Services.
Yes, I have. But it's not the Data Protection Commission.
I understand, yes. And from their submission, what they've said, that everything that they are doing, about this MOU with this partner is in accordance with the Nigerian data protection laws. Now, this is just me saying this. Perhaps the Nigerian Data Protection Council doesn't want to come out. The government doesn't want to be responding from, multiple organizations, and, they are channeling their responses to these reactions through the, organization that initiated the process, and they are coordinating their information through that platform. And that's why they made mention of, the MOU still, respects the Nigerian data protection laws in all its packages. But, we don't know what the Nigerian Data Protection Council is planning. It is yet to be seen. The trend is emerging, and people are commenting, and, things are coming up. Eventually, this is just, the first Monday after these activities has, have emerged.
Very interesting point there, and I want us to explore it a bit further after this very short break. Viewers, It is 30 Minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television, and our guest today is Malam Yusuf Funtua, who is an expert on IT and data security.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. It is still 30 Minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television, and our guest today is Malam Yusuf Funtua, a data security expert that is helping to, bring us to speed on this controversy around the MOU signed between a French entity and the Nigerian Revenue Service. Before we went on break, Malam Yusuf, you are mentioning that, okay, maybe it's too early to expect a statement from the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, which will have reassured and it will have been independent of FIRS, so that there is more believability if people hear from a third party saying that, hang on guys, there is no problem with this, we cleared it, but we haven't had such. Should we still be expecting anything from that commission, or we just assume that the pushback by the Inland Revenue Service that is now has a different name is enough?
Okay, thank you, Manir. I think whether or not the Nigeria Data Protection Council is going to respond, or it doesn't really warrant us, because we might begin to look forward to a response from them, but and they may not respond because we are not sitting there and behind the forces that give them permission to speak. But like I said, I believe perhaps maybe there is a coordinated effort within the government institutions that this outroar affects, and they are trying to see how they can come out with a coordinated response. And perhaps maybe the council might take over responses, because a lot of concern is towards data sovereignty. Now, one thing that is crucial for the Data Protection Council is because back then we've looked at the Nigeria Data Protection Act and the other laws surrounding it. And what we have seen is that, there are a few gaps that needed, to be addressed, especially in terms of data residency. Like I said, majority of Nigeria's economic data are being hosted on, servers that are on foreign lands and are owned by other people, even though there are laws that, protect the rights of its citizens. But imagine that you have a data majority of fintechs in your country, like Pampe, Opay, all these kind
Money
of
Point and all of them
that control the financial activities, sitting on servers that are not on the country. So that in itself
another aspect, if I may jump in there. This issue of hosting in clouds and what you mentioned, Amazons and what have you. Do we have the local capacity to host all this heavy data within our control? That's within Nigeria's or Nigerian companies' control? Or must we continue to rely on the Amazons and all the other big players of this world with all its implications?
Now, at the moment, I can safely say that Nigeria does not have the capacity to host all this data on the Nigerian soil, but efforts can be put in place. Of course, we have the Galaxy backbone, and we have some local emerging cloud service providers that are using colocation services, using the data centers that were built by Nigeria. Some are in Abuja, Kano, Lagos. But, one of the major issues for the Nigerian cloud service is the cost of power. I think the cost of power and scale is affecting the price. So if you want to patronize the local cloud service, you may end up paying higher amount than if you are going to patronize foreign, cloud service providers. And this is a critical challenge. If you now go out to patronize the foreign cloud service providers, you are now faced with the challenge of foreign exchange, which fluctuates. And sometimes the startups cannot be able to, if not for the recent, changes in the central bank where you can use your Naira Bank to transact. But, before the startups, you could not even purchase a cloud service without using some kind of third-party, financial services to use a virtual dollar card, and the rate is far outweighs the normal official exchange rate. So it really, pushed Nigerian startups to the corner. But at the moment, that is why one of the things that we advocated was for Nigeria to bring in initiatives that will attract Nigerian cloud service engineers, to build the workforce in Nigeria and to build a reliable, scalable, and, affordable cloud service that Nigerians can afford and, patronize. There was a slogan that we used to call, I think, is bring down the cloud, bring down the cloud. If that can actually be achieved, it will be very easy. Our goal is for Nigeria to have policy and, laws and systems in place that whenever we are negotiating with any organization, whether internally or outside, externally, we are actually negotiating from a position of control and strength.
But
so,
is it realistic to expect that this Nigerian cloud can be developed? And in your mind, is there a timeline within which it is something you can do within 5 years with all our realities taken into consideration, the poor power and expensive cost of power and what have you, and then the disconnect between our universities and industries? Can we actually harness and have this within a time scale that is realistic?
I believe everything boils down to leadership, right? And if we have the right leadership and there is the will, Nigeria has the resources to put a program in place that is going to attract these talents and also upgrade the infrastructure that we have. I mean, a lot has been done in that aspect, but to put up a system that will compete with Amazon and its likes, we cannot say that is impossible in Nigeria, because if you go out there, you will find that there are a lot of Nigerians that are making, record-breaking strides in this sector, in these areas, and it will not be a problem if Nigeria finds a way to, attract these kind of talents to come back to Nigeria. Actually, if Nigeria can learn from many countries like Estonia, like India, because those countries have also experienced, cybersecurity attacks, digital sovereignty issues, but, after concerted efforts and deliberate, attempts to take back their, digital infrastructure and economy, they are now sovereign nations in that sector. And there are a lot of lessons that we can learn from those countries. In fact, if you look at China decided to make some trade-offs just to achieve 100% digital sovereignty. I'm not saying that we can be like China, but I believe we have the right amount of resources, and there is a spread of talent across the world from Nigeria that we can attract. And this kind of industry doesn't necessarily mean that you have to employ everyone that is Nigerian. We are just saying that Nigeria should have systems and processes and laws in place that will give it the power to, enter into cooperations and agreements from a point of control, from a position of control and strength, in such a way that Nigeria and Nigerians will not be shortchanged.
But Yusuf, someone like me, a digital immigrant, so to say, will wonder, I thought the whole point of the digital world is that it is borderless. We shouldn't be limited to within Nigeria. So why this concern why should we not be part of the global community that is helping to unite citizens wherever they are so as to bring out the best in them?
Okay, I think this is a very important question to ask because, being on the internet is different from giving, access rights to your data. It's very important we understand this. And the reason we are having this discussion is because there is a particular organization that is signing an MOU with Nigeria's FIRS, and that people feel will have direct access and control over the Nigerian tax data. Now, you cannot find Nigeria's tax data on Facebook, TikTok, or Twitter. And those are, companies that, globalized the world, and everyone is interacting, and it sort of made the world a global village. So that is the distinction. So what we are talking about here is, working with an organization that is hosted by a country that has, allegedly some track record, this discouraging track records in other countries, that will have access to a very sensitive data. And that is one of the reasons why some people are asking for the data protection law to categorically state which class of data, what are the regulations on the type and class of data that is being shared with other people that are working and partnering with Nigeria. Just like, there is the personal information, there is banking data, maybe it is just your name and your email address, your house address, or does it include, who has access to that data and what level of control does those people have? So if you are looking at, the internet as a global village, most of the times, if you go online and you sign up on a website, the only thing it takes is your full name, your email address, and if it goes deeper, it takes your date of birth. And it's only when you are signing up for, websites or platforms that deal with financial transactions and whatnot that they will start, the process of KYC, and then it will involve you, facial recognition, thumbprint, and BVN and national identity and things like that. And those are the classes of data that Nigerians would want to know how they are being shared and how they are being controlled by the Nigerian data protection
and
law.
Probably also who are they being shared with, in a word.
Exactly.
Thank you very much,
so
Malam Yusuf
Yes.
Salisu Funtua, for coming onto the program. I'm afraid we have run out of time allotted to this program. Thank you very much for being our guest today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir.
Viewers, that's the end of this edition of 30 Minutes. Keep a date with us.